Welcome back to another episode of Say What Needs to Be Said. I'm your host, your big dog, Asante, Mr. Pick Six Samuel, two-time Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, all-pro record-breaking cornerback. Yeah, and one of the last cornerback to intercept 50 interceptions during the 16-game season era. How we doing out there, baby? How we feeling out there tonight, man? Make sure y'all tap in. Let me know where you're chiming in from, man. I like to hear where people are coming from all over the world. You understand what I'm saying? Football is back. Yes, sir. Football is back. And man, it was a good display of talent out there, man. These backup players and second string, third string players was getting after it. The player I was most impressed with, most of all out there tonight, obviously they're still playing. It's down to the people that's trying to make the team in third string and things like that. But Carson Beck was impressive. He was impressive leading that team, leading the Arizona Cardinals down on a few drives. And he made a few strikes to Jalen Brooks, I think that's his name, the receiver, man. He made a few nice passes down the field, connected very well. I mean, Carson Beck, I don't have much expectations of him. I don't know who does. I mean, a lot of people, you know, it's a UM thing, the hurricane to you, baby. But man, he was impressive. Like I said, Jalen Brooks was also impressive. The wide receiver, I think he's number 83. Then on the other side, Kenny Pickett dealt with the drama in Cleveland. You know, Kevin Stefanski, he was looking at him to be a starter, and he's an official backup. I can say that at least. He's an official backup. He played well out there today for Carolina Panthers. So both teams look like they have some depth on the team as far as that goes. You know, this is just the preseason. It's not much you can look into it. You have to look into individual players and what they bring to the table. And number 95 for Arizona, man, that big guy. I'm not sure if he was supposed to be out there on the field, but he is strong. What his name? Baggins. Type it in the chat for me, man. Shout out to the people in the chat. But yeah, number 95 for Arizona Cardinals. He looks like he is 6'4", 450 pounds, straight solid muscle, ready to move anyone in the way. But yeah, before I forget, man, first and foremost, man, big congratulations to the 2026 class Pro Football Hall of Fame, man. And that class features, you know, it was Drew Brees, one of my competitors, one of the guys that I went toe-to-toe with. Drew Brees played against him when he played for the Los Angeles Chargers and also the New Orleans Saints. And we got Roger Craig, man. Everybody know Roger Craig. If you play with Roger Craig, if you know Roger Craig, you played with him in Tecmo Bowl back in the day. So shout out to Roger Craig. Then the great Larry Fitzgerald, well-deserved, man. Larry Fitzgerald, first-round Hall of Famer, man. And it doesn't get any better than that, man. So shout out to Larry Fitzgerald. Then we got linebacker Luke Kuechly. Sorry about that. Then we got Adam Vinatieri, a teammate of mine, man. Adam Vinatieri, Mr. Clutch. You know, he's helped us and the New England Patriots win a few Super Bowls over there. And yeah, tonight was that night, man. Hall of Famers, man. So shout out to the class of 2026 making it to the Hall of Fame, man. And there's more to come. But yeah, that tonight wasn't a regular first preseason game, Hall of Fame game. That was actually competitive. You know, they was out there getting after it, man. Those guys are, you know, obviously the first string didn't play and things like that, but that was great. Hey, yeah, man, and congrats to Larry Fitzgerald, man. Got to give a special congrats to Larry Fitzgerald. Like I said, this is one of the players that, you know, we had a lot of battles together, man. And, you know, congratulations on being a first-round Hall of Famer, right? First ballot, Hall of Famer. Let me tell you about Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald, he exemplifies what it means to carry yourself like a professional athlete. If I had to show any one of my athletes or one of the young men that I mentor or someone that looks up to me, I would tell them to watch Larry Fitzgerald, how he carries himself, you know, how he treats everyone around him. You know, Larry Fitzgerald is the epitome of a professional athlete, you know. And when, you know, Kurt Warner to Larry Fitzgerald, they gave defenses hell back in the days, man, when Kurt Warner was still pushing. He was almost 40 years of age. And they was lighting it up together, man. Larry Fitz, I think that's what they like to call him. Larry Fitzgerald, man, he had spectacular hands and body control. That's what separated him from other receivers. You put the ball in his area, he's going to come down with it. He was a sure-handed, strong guy. He would take the ball away from you if it came down to it, a 50-50 ball, you know. And if they had more years together, Larry Fitzgerald and Kurt Warner, man, it's possible Larry Fitzgerald could have challenged Jerry Rice for the leading receiver in the history of the game, talking receiving yards and receptions. You know, we know Larry Fitzgerald is number 2 all time right now behind Jerry Rice. And if Kurt Warner would have stuck around for a little while longer, if he could have pushed playing in the 42, 43, it's a good possibility that Larry Fitzgerald would have broke that record, you know, but that didn't happen, you know. But once Kurt Warner retired, Arizona had a hard time replacing him with the quality quarterback. You know, they went. It's a list of quarterbacks, a whole slew of quarterbacks that came through Arizona, and you know that Larry Fitzgerald had to play with. You know, if Seavers want to take the number 1 spot away from Jerry Rice, they have to play. I was doing some math, man, and they have to play at least 15 seasons. You have to play at least 15 seasons if you want to take down Jerry Rice as the number one receiver in the history of the game. We're talking receiving yards and receptions. Because 22,000 yards, it takes a long time to accomplish. And Justin Jefferson, he's pretty much dealing with the same issues that Larry Fitzgerald had to deal with. And that's quarterback play, quality quarterback play. Justin Jefferson, first 3 seasons, you know, he was on pace to top Jerry Rice, you know, for that number 1 spot in 14 to 15 seasons. His production, you know, it took a hit after Kirk Cousins went down, you know, and that's understandable. That happens. But then a miracle happens for the Minnesota Vikings. A miracle happens. The perfect quarterback arrives, you know, and he got the offense back rolling, but they already had drafted J.J. McCarthy, you know, in the first round. And they had a commitment to that first round pick. That screwed a lot of things up in Minnesota. Shame on Minnesota. Shame on Minnesota. You know, but Larry Fitzgerald, man. Larry Fitzgerald, he can do it all. Great player right there. Shout out to Larry Fitzgerald, man. Salute to you, brother. Glad I don't got to play against him no more. I'm tired of tackling that man. Shout out to the chat, man. Let me give old Edward Goodwin a shout out, man. And my guy from back in the days. Let's go. Let's go. So yeah, man, for the night's topics, man. This next segment, we're gonna get into the Baker Mayfield issue. And Baker Mayfield, he put himself in a situation that necessarily didn't have to be this way. But we're here now. So what is Baker Mayfield going to do? You know, Baker Mayfield has the atmosphere in Tampa Bay a little uncomfortable. For everybody, you know, it's how it is. And it's not because of them. It's because of Baker Mayfield. He probably can't see it. He can't probably feel the energy that he's carrying around because he's unhappy. He doesn't feel appreciated. And chat, y'all help me out with this. Y'all let me know what defines a franchise quarterback before we get started in this segment. What defines a franchise quarterback? And do you consider Baker Mayfield what you define as a franchise quarterback? Y'all talk to me in the chat because we're going to have a little Q&A with this right here. You know what I mean? And let me tell you, seeing all the players sign new contracts, it has to make me think. Did Baker Mayfield make the right decision to end negotiations with the team once training camp began? They cut negotiations exactly when training camp began. And that was because Baker Mayfield decided to handle the situation that way. Every year, a few weeks into training camp, teams strike deals with players. Of course, the first offer is going to be a low ball offer. That's why it's called negotiating, right? You have to understand this is a business. Baker Mayfield have to understand this is a business that has protocol in place for how they want to handle things like contracts when they do the contract negotiations or contract extensions. You only make the type of demand Baker Mayfield demanded if you're coming off a Super Bowl victory or maybe even a Super Bowl appearance, to say the least. You can't come in and swinging your tail left and right because you won a few games. You're the division champion. You had a subpar amount of production. That doesn't hold no weight to a $1 billion NFL team. They want the Super Bowl. You understand? Now, Baker Mayfield has put all the pressure on himself to perform at a level that shows he deserves a fair market value contract. He put the pressure on himself now. Baker Mayfield should be signing the deal along with other players during training camp right now. You got Bijan Robinson, Jamari Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Zay Flower. Should be Baker Mayfield next. He should be signing a new deal, right along with everyone else. And if he already had the deal done, then that puts the pressure back on the team. He doesn't need to be putting the pressure on himself. Now he needs to first stay healthy, second perform at levels that convinces Tampa Bay to franchise him and work something out, or play well enough another team think he qualifies to be their quarterback. That's the pressure Baker Mayfield put on himself. Tension between Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers continue to grow. Things between Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers aren't getting better. Since Mayfield announced last week how disappointed he was with the latest contract offer, things have continued to get worse between the two parties. Mayfield cut off communication with the team when the team's training camp began. According to reports, he doesn't look happy. Of course he's not happy, because he thinks he's a franchise quarterback. ESPN Adam Schefter describes what the atmosphere had been like for Mayfield at Bucs camp. Mayfield is within his right to say, I don't like this offer. But to call the offer disrespectful, we have to judge for ourselves. So you judge for yourself. Schefter said, per Joe Buck fan, the Bucs essentially offered a 2-year extension averaging over $50 million a year. And the total money in the 3 years would have put him in the top 5 quarterbacks in the game. But I don't think he liked the length of the deal. I don't think he liked that it was a 2-year extension and that would contractually tie him to 3 years. The money is his, I guess it's supposed to say it's a typo there. The money in his mind was off and he felt disrespected. Man, Baker Mayfield. We know Baker Mayfield is one of those guys that is full of ego, right? He's one of those guys that thinks he's accomplished more than what he's accomplished. He thinks he's a better player than he actually is. We all probably do. I'm not just saying Baker Mayfield. We all probably do, especially when it comes to contract times, and contract negotiation. But Baker Mayfield needs to drop his ego right now and tell his agent to contact that team and ask them to continue to trade proposals, continue negotiations. And if he needs to apologize for doing bad business, then make it happen, because this ain't it. Baker Mayfield should be signing a deal as we speak. Teams aren't too fond of negotiating new contracts during the season. You very, very rarely see teams strike deals during the season. Hint, the reason they make sure players they want around get deals done during training camp. That's the nature of the game. It's not really done before training camp or at the deadline before training camp starts, like Baker Mayfield requested. Now he has some big kahunas if he demanded them get something done before we start training camp. And like I said, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, won a playoff game, or at least made Super Bowl appearance. That's the only way I see a player of Baker Mayfield age make a demand that way. And if you're coming off your rookie deal, you do what you do. You leverage it however you want to make it, so. And this is a Baker Mayfield issue. Baker Mayfield calls this issue on himself. No one else. This is what Baker Mayfield decided to do. He can't tell those people he feels disrespected going into his 11th season when they offered him a pretty fair market deal, per the article. He gonna give the general manager a deadline for when they can give him some money. Think about that. Do you see how that sounds? I'm gonna give y'all a deadline for when y'all should pay me. And if we don't make a deal by that deadline, I don't want your money. You understand? See how? Think about the psychological in that part. Where is the logics in that? Mayfield's idea of what average per year should be, it can't make sense. Like I said, what makes a quarterback a franchise quarterback? The question I proposed to everyone in the beginning of this segment. Let me know what defines a franchise quarterback. I thought a franchise quarterback meant an elite quarterback who the team has long-term plans for, right? Got to be elite first. And then we plan on having you around for a decade or so at least, I guess, right? I just don't think the Buccaneers are super excited about signing Mayfield. Yes, they need him around for 1 or 2 more seasons, maybe even 3. But as soon as they are able to find a true franchise passer, they won't hesitate to replace Baker Mayfield, in my opinion. Like I said, Tom Brady has came through there and made a huge difference on how everyone in that organization view things. Now, the best thing going for Baker Mayfield at this point is the lack of quality quarterbacks in the NFL draft. But hell, he'll mess around and get traded for a guy like Arch Manning, the golden boy, the way he is carrying on. Because nobody is safe when it comes to Arch Manning when he declares for the NFL draft. For real, for real. So we'll see how that goes with Baker Mayfield. I feel like they are going to get a contract deal done. This makes no sense for Baker Mayfield to be this stubborn and hold off as long as he's holding off and things like that. But we'll see how that goes, man. How we doing in the chat? Do we feel like Baker Mayfield is making the right decision and demanding certain things at the caliber player he is at this point in his career? Y'all let me know in the chat. I don't know. I don't think Baker Mayfield should be making these demands at this point, right? He should be handling, being a professional and negotiating accordingly and getting the deal done. I don't think it's that hard. But next topic of the night, man, we got Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs, man. Stefon Diggs finally reached a deal, and he's on the team now. Clap it up for the Diggs brothers. Yeah, I thought it was looking bad for the Diggs brothers, man. This year, it's possible both of them wasn't going to be playing for a team. So, watch the Commanders reach the agreement with Stefon Diggs, to bring some much-needed help to the receiving group for the Washington Commanders. I like Jalen Daniels to Stefon Diggs. What Stefon Diggs is going to do for Jalen Daniels is going to increase the value of who Jalen Daniels is as a quarterback. He's going to be that much better of a quarterback, being that Stefon Diggs can work the middle of the field and have that better veteran presence along with Terry McLaurin. Oh, man, I like what Washington Commanders are building over there. Now, obviously, you have to use Stefon Diggs in the correct manner. But Stefon Diggs, from my understanding, it takes an ACL injury a full season for players to get back to 100%. Diggs was playing for the Patriots, I would say around 90% last season, because he was just coming off of ACL surgery, and he was still a playmaker. He played all 17 games last season. That's impressive coming off an injury of that magnitude. So this season with the Commanders. Expect him to be 100% full throttle. He might be a step faster than he was last season, and he's probably going to have a ton of more confidence, along with just everything flowing naturally back to when he felt like, back in his prime days and things like that. But ACL injury. Let me tell you, a lot of people come back stronger, faster, and a much better player. Not later in their career, obviously, but Stephon Diggs, I was surprised of how he handled himself and how he came back last season for the Patriots. And he did a hell of a job. Now, Brandon Ayuk, on the other hand, man, he was on the Commanders' radar. Now, I think they really was interested in bringing him in, being that Jaden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk already had some camaraderie together and, some chemistry. Some chemistry, being that they played at Arizona State together. Boy, that guy cost himself a lot of money. One day when football is all said and done and Brandon Ayuk's career is officially over, he will regret how he handled this situation. I'm telling you, man. That was a horrible interviewing process he went through this offseason, because that's what we're continuously in. Everybody is watching us, whether we have a contract or not. And obviously, if you're a disgruntled player and you don't want to be with a team anymore, you are being interviewed every minute of the day. Teams are watching you. They want to understand the type of player you are. Should they invest money into this player? Can they trust this player with money? And Brandon Ayuk showed that he can't be trusted when it comes to the money category, because now this player becomes uncontrollable. That was a horrible interviewing process this man went through, and right now it's looking like Brandon Ayuk is going to end up being a shoe-in for some possible team. The team has to be extremely desperate to make a trade for Brandon Ayuk at this point, but he probably would be a better threat, a more valued threat than Stephon Diggs. But hey, Stephon Diggs is there to get the job done. You got to use those two wide receivers. How they fit best into the system, I guess. So we'll see. Brandon Ayuk, man, that's a disappointing guy right there. But don't get it twisted. He may have a point. Brandon Ayuk may have a point not wanting to deal with the San Francisco 49ers training staff because he doesn't trust him. After hearing how the 49ers handled or are handling Ricky Pearsall's injury, Brandon Ayuk may have a point. Ricky Pearsall went down with a PCL injury in September and rushed back on the field just like all the teams do. He was rushed back on the football field, and that didn't go well. Now Ricky Pearsall is out for the 2026 season. After going through the full offseason with no surgeries, no updates of is he getting better or getting worse, we're going to start training camp and hope he's ready to go. Find out he's not. He won't be playing 2026 injury. He's on IR, and now he needs to undergo surgery when he could have just went through surgery this offseason. So Brandon Ayuk understood the team in the training room and them pressuring players to get back on the field. Now the Commanders, okay, did they make the right decision? That's an obvious answer, yes, to sign Stephon Diggs instead of going after Brandon Ayuk. So yes, they I'm sure they did their due diligence. They waited to the right moment. Obviously, they waited until training camp. Excuse me. They waited till training camp began to finally ink a deal with Stephon Diggs, because Stephon Diggs is, that type of player going into his career is developed into, that lane basically. And you could be a good teammate, man. You could be a good teammate, but it's just hard for a team to trust a player that is showing his ass the way Brandon Ayuk is and jeopardizing his entire team. That's just crazy. That's some crazy work. But Stephon Diggs, let me tell you one thing about Stephon Diggs. He understands he has to earn his keep to prolong his NFL career. And he's going to go out there and be the dog that he always is and always was. All the drama, all the flamboyantness, all the me stuff, I'm sure that is gone now. Now it's time for survival. I'm trying to survive and prolong my NFL career. I see that I'm 1 foot out the door and I need to make the best of every situation. So that would be my support to sign Stephon Diggs if I was in the building. That's why you go get that young man. What are y'all thinking in the chat? Is that a good was that a good signing for the Washington Commanders? Stephon Diggs, who else was out there? They need somebody on the other side of Terry McLaurin and Stephon Diggs. Brandon Ayuk probably were the 2 best prospects available, so there we go. All right, we got next, man. How we doing, chat? How we doing out there? How we doing? It's Thursday night. Now we have to talk about my Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, no more A.J. Brown. Got Jalen Carter in the defense. What are the expectations? Expectations for Jalen Hurts. And as much as Jalen Hurts has accomplished, a lot of people aren't convinced he still isn't. A lot of people aren't convinced that he is a legit top quarterback, pretty much. After all he's accomplished, a lot of people still want to hate on the kid. Some of the critics that don't have Hurts ranked high still can't believe he won a Super Bowl. They don't know how it was done because they don't like Jalen Hurts that much. Besides Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's a winner. But the question now is, now that A.J. Brown is a Patriot, it would be interesting to see how Jalen Hurts performs at quarterback post A.J. Brown. That is the big question mark surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley isn't getting younger. Saquon Barkley isn't getting any younger. So you can't expect him to go out there and rush for 2,000 yards like he did a couple of seasons ago. That's not realistic. So we can't expect Saquon Barkley to carry the team. We expect Jalen Hurts to carry the team. But don't get it twisted. Saquon Barkley is still a dynamic player after 8 seasons. He can still do some special things. Now, I do expect him to rush for more than 1,000 yards. 1,000 yards rushing isn't the same as it was in the NFL when they had 16-game seasons. 1,000 yards is expected. If you're not rushing for 1,000 yards, I don't know what to tell you. That running back needs to be replaced. Now, when you look at A.J. Brown and what he's brought to the table, I think Jalen Hurts put a lot of pressure on himself. Put more pressure on himself than he needed to get the ball to A.J. Brown. Now, he don't have to worry about that no more. We don't have to worry about that now. We're going to see Jalen Hurts beat Jalen Hurts without A.J. Brown. Can he show his skills as a passing quarterback? Right? Right? Can he sit back in the pocket, pick apart defense, make good reads and throws and accurate throws, right? That's what we're looking for Jalen Brown. And ultimately, you just win the game. And if he chooses to use his legs more than usual, and the Eagles are still winning, people have to accept that. That's just the way it is. And if his quarterback skills aren't attractive to people like other quarterbacks, you got Patrick Mahomes and so on and so forth, but Jalen Hurts is winning, you have to accept that. You have to accept this style of play. That's who he is. It's not going to be the prettiest. It is what it is. If the Eagles use the tush push more than you like it, but it's effective, don't be a hater. Just accept it. Jalen Hurts discovered an advantage that fits him better than anyone else, and he's using it to his advantage. That's what gaining the edge is about. Now, Jalen Hurts as a passer, right? I hear all the chatter surrounding Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a touchdown so far during training camp. Because that's a thing now, keeping stats during training camp. And I don't know how true that is, if it's true or not true. But that's not a big deal for a player who's been around and accomplished the things that Jalen Hurts has accomplished. But it will be interesting to see how Jalen Hurts handles getting the ball to Mekhi Lemon, how he uses him as one of his weapons, how they develop together as a wide receiver quarterback duo. I'm interested to see that because Jalen Hurts no longer has the big A.J. Brown around to depend on with those 50-50 balls. Now, you can throw the ball up in man coverage to a 5'11", 5'10" receiver, you know? But when you have a guy like A.J. Brown around that's bigger with sure hands, you know the odds are much greater on the offensive side of the ball when you're dealing with a guy like A.J. Brown. That's no longer available. So Jalen Hurts has to what's the word I'm looking for? He has to make up for that now, you know? So we'll see. We'll see that how Jalen Hurts handles this season without A.J. Brown. High expectation. And we know that Philadelphia Eagles, they keep a good defense with a lot of talent on that defense. So the defense will be there to have Jalen Hurts back, just like they did the Super Bowl season. And you know, that's why the people hating on the Super Bowl. Is like the defense was super talented, super stacked. All that talent he had on offense, anybody could have played in that offense and won the Super Bowl. That's Cam Newton's favorite words and things like that. So we all listen to the hate, man. It's all cool. It's all cool. It's all cool. Now what we got next? We got Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. Can't forget about Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is thriving much better with the new offensive coordinator, new offensive game plan. They all are thriving much better compared to last season. Last season with Kevin Stefanski and staff was absolutely horrible. But I sure can't wait. I just can't wait until Shedeur Sanders shut these haters up. And if you haven't heard by now, coaches and executive rank Shedeur Sanders dead last out of 35 quarterbacks. 35th overall. After all he's gone through last season, they still don't believe in Shedeur Sanders. Refuse to believe in the Shedeur Sanders. Refuse to give him a fair opportunity without judging him in a terrible way. You know? But last season, I thought Shedeur showed the ability to rally his team. You know, he get a player that can give his team a spark when needed, and also great playmaking ability. With the limited time that he had, that's what I think Shedeur showed. Now, Shedeur, this is his sophomore season. There's going to always be people that don't believe. So he has to continue to make them believers. And of course, there's a list of things that Shedeur needs to work on to improve his game. We all need to improve on things that we're doing. Our job, if we're in any type of profession, there are things we can improve on. So that's not a big knock on Shedeur. All right. So let's check this out. Browns quarterback room blasted in new rankings by The Athletic. It says amongst the 37 quarterbacks who started at least 7 games last season, Shedeur Sanders ranked dead last in EPA per pass play, finishing directly behind J.J. McCarthy and Cam Ward. League evaluators pulled no punches regarding the young passer baseline skill set. He's inaccurate at all levels, one executive stated. I can't tell if he's going to get better, but there's a huge gap between him and incompetent quarterback play. Shots fired. Defensive coordinator said, I sleep like a baby if I got to play against him every week, one defensive coordinator admitted. He's not an on-time player. Can't really read through the coverages. Is a little bit heavy-footed, the coordinator explained. He's thicker and harder to tackle than expected. But you shouldn't lose him. And continued. Yeah. So what I would like to say responding to that article, like I said, you can't really look at last season and think that's the best you're going to get from Shedeur Sanders. He barely got a chance to prepare like a starter. Treating practice like he's a practice squad player during training camp. You know? And then expecting him to go perform like a starter when he's thrown in the fire without the proper preparation. It's crazy, man. Yeah. Now, if you think J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders because he edges him out in a certain category or a certain stat, you got to be flapping crazy. You got to be flapping crazy. But I guess we will find out sooner or later. Because if J.J. McCarthy can't beat Kyler Murray out and Kyler Murray is out there playing subpar, then what does that mean for J.J. McCarthy? And if Deshaun Watson, now we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson. I've been giving Deshaun Watson hell. But what I've seen these past couple of days, we're going to talk about it. But back to J.J. McCarthy. Ain't nowhere in the world, even though he was drafted before Shedeur Sanders, these people can't believe that J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. If you're looking at one aspect of their game and saying that J.J. McCarthy gets the ball out and reads and processes things much quicker than Shedeur Sanders, and that what makes him a better quarterback, then so be it. But when you're talking about a quarterback, a player, a quarterback has to have that it factor. He has to be a winner. He has to has that aura about him, a leader. You understand what I'm saying? The players have to want to rally around this quarterback. It's not just about this, that, and that, and you know, it's a lot of things that have to go into play when you're talking about evaluating a quarterback. But like I said, if you want to take those 1-2 little stats and say that J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback, you'd be flapping crazy. I wouldn't give Geno Smith the job over Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. I wouldn't give it to Geno Smith. You can't compare a couple of stats and then just think it's like that. But this year is a different season. Last year was last year. Maybe this year J.J. McCarthy will make a big leap forward and become a better player than he was in the past couple of seasons, as well as Shedeur Sanders. Expecting a lot from Shedeur Sanders, you know? But this is what it boils down to in this competition for QB1 in Cleveland for the Browns. You have one quarterback that processes things very quickly, understands getting the ball out of his hands, but is very limited, which handicaps the offense. He needs a run-heavy offense to thrive. However, you can win games with this quarterback with good offensive concepts. That fits his style. That's one of the quarterbacks. The other quarterback has proven that he can get the job done. This other quarterback have proven that he can get the job done, but that was a while ago. That was some time ago. This quarterback is the most athletic of them all, and he has tons of experience. He hasn't shown he is capable. He has shown he is capable of playing at a high level, or he has shown he's capable of playing at a high level, and he hasn't shown he's capable of playing at a high level since playing at a high level a while ago. So we're waiting on it. But because of his contract guarantees, he was afforded more chances than usual. And he's still here trying to compete, and we'll see. And it will be hard to get fans to rally around this quarterback. But like I heard someone say today, the best apology is winning. All it takes for this quarterback to go out there and win. Now everybody looks at him differently. And as soon as this quarterback makes a mistake, the fans, the stadium, the city of Cleveland, they're gonna erupt. They're gonna have a lot of nasty, crazy things to say. But we'll see. And then the last quarterback. Yes, he doesn't process things as quick as others. He has a different style of play. He's a winner. He won on the college level at different programs on different levels with different coordinators on different teams. I think that's very impressive. I would like to see him release the ball a little quicker, not just specifically make process reads quicker and faster. I want to see him get that ball out of his hand a lot faster. It's like when it gets back here, it's like a little hesitation. I want to see it, right? I think that's what one part that's missing from his game, right? This player has the pedigree to be a winner. He's proved it in the college level, totally on a lot of different levels. And not only that, he has a lot of resilience. He's unflappable. If you don't know what that word means, go look it up. I had to look it up myself. He's unflappable, brothers. He's an unflappable brother. And that's what you need. Even when what he was going through last season, when he was throwing interceptions, not playing good ball, looking like a scrub, having to practice with the ball boys to get any work done. You didn't see that it affected him. Now he talked about it and he said, let me throw on the chain, get my confidence back. Let me still feel like I'm him. But that's who the last quarterback is. And you have to decide, who would you pick out of all these three quarterbacks? Now what we got here? What's next? Todd Monken. The Cleveland Browns make their first quarterback decision between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. What do we have here? Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson will start one of Cleveland's first two preseason games. NFL Network's Cameron Wolf reported Tuesday from the Browns training camp. One will open up against the Chicago Bears on August 15th, while the other will start against the Buffalo Bills on August 22nd. Monken has not decided who will get the first opportunity. Wolf said the next week of practice will likely determine the order. I just talked to Todd Monken a few minutes ago, Wolf said. He said that this about the quarterback race. I want one of these guys to make it clear to me that they're my guy with their play. The quarterback leading the competition after the first two exhibition games will then likely start Cleveland's preseason finale against the New England Patriots, August 27th. This is what Wolf's reporting about Todd Monken when asked about Shedeur Sanders. He's been very impressed with this is him reporting about Todd Monken. Sorry, he's been very impressed with Shedeur over the last 4 months, and he's shown particularly with his operation, Wolf said. But he still has some room to grow. His challenge for Shedeur is getting in and out of the huddle a little cleaner and being faster with his decision making. That decision making thing is continuously to plague Shedeur Sanders, man. That is one thing he has to figure out sooner rather than later. You know what I mean? But I would like to say, don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Shedeur has the most upside of all of these quarterbacks. And ultimately, this isn't a good look for Deshaun Watson, no matter how you look at it. A quarterback of his caliber shouldn't be in a competition, a quarterback battle with a fifth rounder in Shedeur Sanders. That's the truth. That's the blatant truth. Deshaun Watson should have made this clear, like Todd Monken said, I am your quarterback. This should be a clear, defined quarterback race in Deshaun Watson's favor, but it's not. You know, if Shedeur ultimately wins this competition, Watson value will drop to the point that he may not be able to return. You know what I mean? Todd Monken should already be convinced Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback. It's just not the case, man. It's just not the case, you know. But I just think Todd Monken is on the fence with who he should start. He really isn't sure from what he saw from both quarterbacks. Now, Wednesday, I'm telling you, Wednesday practice, that really had to catch Todd Monken's attention, you know? But ultimately, I think Todd Monken needs to see, and he wants to see how both quarterbacks react to certain situations in a game time setting and see how they execute their offense and make decisions. How fast, like you said, how fast can they process talking to the coach? How fast can you process situations when they come up in the game? Right? Like I said, after seeing a few clips on Wednesday, from Wednesday practice and Thursday practice, Deshaun Watson looked like something may be starting to click for him, for the young man. Something looked like it was starting to click because I don't see how you just forget how to play football. He looked very sharp and comfortable in practice. I mean, he looked like he's supposed to look. I don't know why I was so excited. He looked like exactly what he's supposed to look, right? Now, if he continues to stack these practices up like he did on Wednesday and have a decent preseason game, Todd Monken will have a very tough decision to make. And ultimately, I think Todd Monken is leaning towards Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson will not make it clear for him. So this is where Shedeur Shanders come in. If Deshaun Watson doesn't want or doesn't have the desire he once had to be that guy, then just step aside. It's time for someone else to take over, you know? But yeah, Deshaun Watson, man, we'll see in the Cleveland Browns. I'm excited about the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns has a pretty good team. And I think they're going to shock a lot of people. What do y'all think, chat? Tell me how do y'all feel about the Cleveland Browns this season? We got here at the bottom. Man. It says, after a couple preseason games, Coach Monken going to name him the starter. Who is him? Is it Shedeur or is it Deshaun Watson? I don't know. A few preseason games, man. You got to go out there and execute. Sometimes that's not enough time for some people. You know, you can have a lot of good practices. I mean, you can stack practices up left and right. You can be playing at balls to the wall during practice. And then you step into the game, preseason game atmosphere, and don't perform as well as you did in practice. Now, all of a sudden, coach looks at you different. Now you may move down the depth chart. That's what sucks about being judged off of one game. You know, it's like, give me the keys. I deserve the keys to this RV. I deserve the keys to this RV. Let me cook, and I promise you, I won't let you down. That's the type of player ultimately Shedeur Sanders is. And he was asked about, has he ever been in a competition? Think about it. What competition has Shedeur ever been in as a quarterback? That's why he said, no, I haven't. It's me, myself. Only competition I ever been in was against me and myself. Me, myself, and I. And that's who Shedeur Sanders is. He be going through that his whole life, man. So I can't wait, man. Football season is here. And listen, man, they was out there playing some ball today. You know, everybody was making fun about the Arizona Cardinals, and that team looked sloppy on Twitter. You know, Twitter is not a place for the weak. They are going in on Twitter. Anything they can find that they know people going to click, laugh about, and try to shame you, they are going for it, man. Twitter is not a positive place. It's not a positive place. But yeah, that's it for tonight's episode, Thursday Night Vibes. It's your boy Asante, Mr. Pick Six. I love y'all out there in the chat, man. I hope y'all love me back, man. And we feeling good, man. This season, man, is gonna be different. And I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Make sure y'all continue to rock out with me. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Make sure y'all tell a friend and tell a friend. Pick Six is here. And know what? That nobody else is gonna keep it realer than Mr. Pick Six. And we ain't holding no punches back. So like I said, again, Thursday Night Vibe, it's your boy Asante, Mr. Pick Six Sammy, and I'm going to see y'all Sunday night, man. Make sure y'all tune in and be ready. All right.